So the nice thing about, the assistive technology now in terms of orientation and mobility is there are a lot of things out there that will get you the information that people visually pick up in another sense, being auditorily. And that would bring us to BlindSquare. BlindSquare does just exactly that. So BlindSquare is an app that acts as a navigational tool for the visually impaired and blind, and it announces information about their environment, their nearby businesses, their streets, and public transportation, whether you're walking and or you're stationary. So if you've recently lost your vision and you're now walking, down the street of your main town, things are going to look different. And you're like, well, I was really looking for the CVS over on the corner. It doesn't look right. How am I going to know if I'm there? BlindSquare will tell you that. What it does is, if we think about the skills that sighted travelers use, sighted travelers, visually scan and preview their environment while they're traveling. BlindSquare does that by auditorily updating you as you're traveling. So if you're walking down the street and you're looking at all those businesses that are down that street, like this, we are as sighted people, BlindSquare would be announcing those businesses as you were walking down the street, so you would get that information auditorily. Another thing that, one of the skills that we use is being able to visually perceive distance. Once you lose your vision, you're like, how long have I been walking? It seems like I've been walking a really long time. Did I go 10 feet? Did I go 50 feet? And BlindSquare has pedometers in there, so it will tell you how fast you walk, how far you've gone, and it will also update you and tell you, that the intersection of Cherry and Orange is approximately 20 feet away. And you're like, oh, well, that works. Now I know. Another thing that you can do with it is lots of us, we use visual landmarks. Well, you can now set your own landmarks with BlindSquare, and you can set those as auditory landmarks. So if you go to a place frequently, or if there's a particular object in your yard that you pass that you want to have announced to you while you're traveling so you don't miss it, you can do that using the BlindSquare app. So individuals experiencing low vision can become easily disoriented, and their ability to visually and scan and improve their environment is impaired. Now you can go ahead and take a look and say, hey, everything's going to look significantly different when I travel. How am I going to get that information? If I'm not using my vision, and if it's not reliable, I'm going to need to get that through auditory ways. So essentially, BlindSquare will allow the blind traveler to complete the same tasks for spatially updating without having to have a sighted guide present or someone with you. So, let's say, let's give an example. You're in the car, and you're traveling from Pennsylvania to Virginia with your friend. And it's going to be a 4-hour drive. And you're sitting there and you're going, am I there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Who wants to ask that question all over again? Because I've had some people say, I'm sorry, I really feel like a 5-year-old, but can you tell me how far away we are? I'm like, sure, you could do that. Well, you could have BlindSquare running in the background, and it would inform you. It updates you as you're driving. So if you have BlindSquare running in the background, in your car, or I always have my aftershock headsets on because, as much as I appreciate BlindSquare, the person next to me probably doesn't. So we use the aftershock headset, so I can still go ahead and talk to whoever is driving, but still get the information. So as you're driving, using BlindSquare, it'll consistently update. You are driving down 95. You are now passing Stafford County. This is the place where there's the museum here, and it'll announce museums, points of interest around you, and you're like, oh, that's great. It really works out well for children, too. Because if you think about it, my children are always looking out the window as I'm driving from my house to the grocery store, and they're visually updating themselves and where they go. Well, my other students who are visually impaired, we have their parents, they hook up their GPS, and they use BlindSquare while they're driving in the car with their students and with their children, so that their children hear the route that they're traveling, they hear the businesses that are around them, and they become more familiar and aware of what's in their environment. One of the nice things that, I had done was I had gone out, with a student, shopping. And before we go out to any of our lessons, I always have BlindSquare up. I make them, set the GPS coordinations and tell me when they're there. So as we were traveling, we were going to Walmart, and she did her job, and she picked out her little things, and it was great. And she goes, "Can we go to McDonald's now?" I was like, "Where's McDonald's?" She said, "Well, they said it was in this complex. BlindSquare announced it." I was like, "Let me look." Oh, yes, it is. I was like, "Guess we can go to McDonald's." Because you can, if you found it and you can tell me, hey, great, let's go to McDonald's. So yeah, I find that even with children, getting that information has been very rewarding. So in terms of BlindSquare, there are some things that it will allow you to do. And one of the things that I like to, indicate for BlindSquare is that the most important thing is the settings, all right? And if you first turn on BlindSquare, you're probably using it with VoiceOver. Do we have any VoiceOver users? Anyone use VoiceOver? Yeah. BlindSquare is awesome. It has its own audio feedback in it, but if you're using it with VoiceOver, sometimes there's two things talking at once, and you're like, how do I make it stop? What do I listen to? And you're like, uh-oh, what do I do? So the first thing you need to do is, you always go into the BlindSquare settings menu, and I have that up there, and we can go over the settings for that. Now the settings that you want to do is your filtering and distance, and I can tell you that those are directly on the main page. And your filtering, BlindSquare will filter how much information you want to hear, all right? It goes anywhere from like 0.8 miles away to 1.2 miles away. Now, if I'm walking 2 blocks down the road, I don't really want to hear every business announced to me within a 2.1 mile radius away. So changing those settings will definitely go ahead and get you information, and you can narrow that down. So some of the features for BlindSquare, I'm about to turn this on here. Turn on BlindSquare for you.
Search places within radius of 1.24 miles.
There's that distance filter. I don't want to do 1.25 miles.
Distance 575 feet.
Well, first I'm going to go
General entertainment, Mensam and James. About 120 feet. Cafe, Spices and Beyond. 535 feet at 10 o'clock.
Now I'm going to
Deli Bodega, 2003.
I'm going to pause the speech here quickly, for her, just to say that one of the things, the first thing I wanted to talk about is one of the features is called Your Location. This is my favorite feature. It's called Your Location because literally, if I shake my phone, it's going to tell me information. It's going to tell me, it's going to tell me where is the closest address. So if I'm standing in front of 210, it's going to say, you're at 210. I'm like, ooh, that's helpful. I was like, then it's going to tell you the street that you're on. So now it says, you're at 210 Cherry Street. I'm like, even better. Then it'll say, it'll tell you your heading, the direction in which you're traveling, based on north, south, east, west, or cardinal directions. You're like, ooh, I like that. And then it'll tell you when your next intersection is approaching, your next upcoming intersection, the name of that intersection, and how far away it was. And that feature came about when I talked to the app developer, Ilka, and I said, as I'm traveling with my students, I could use Google Maps, and Google Maps is going to give me directions. I was like, but it doesn't give me enough information. Like, it doesn't talk to me all the time. I'm going, why isn't it talking to me? Am I going the wrong way? Is it still working? Is it not still working? And you're like, uh-oh. Or Google will give you information, say, hey, start and head west toward Cherry Street and make a left. And you're like, good, that's great. Which way's west? Which direction am I facing? What should I do now? So one of the things that you can do with BlindSquare is that you can go ahead and figure out where your location is. So as my students get their GPS, what we usually do is we'll say, okay, if you want to use Google Maps, you can do that. I'd like to see you do that first. I was like, but tell me where you are. And I'll turn the speech back on here. So let's see if I can get it here to work.
Search places within radius of 575 feet. Your location. Nearest crossing is Dulles Corner Boulevard and Dulles Corner Drive. Distance 400 feet south. Shake your iPhone to check into Hyatt Dulles at Dulles International Airport. Address is 2300 Dulles Corner Boulevard, Herndon, heading northeast.
That's a lot of information. Now, when I first take out, my students in traveling, they're like, all I need is an iPhone. As long as I have an iPhone and technology, I'm going to be able to get wherever I'm going to go. And that's a great idea. I wish it worked like that, but it doesn't. Just like, I have many students say to me, I don't need to learn how to use a cane because I'm going to get a guide dog. And you're like, oh, have you checked into those dog guide schools yet? Well, no. As soon as I graduate, I'm going to get a guide dog. I was like, did you realize that in order to get a guide dog, you have to be able to demonstrate good orientation and mobility skills using a cane first? They just don't give you a dog. You have to be able to orientate yourself, whether you're using a cane and or a dog. The dog, you can't just whisper down to your dog and say, take me to Walmart. That would be awesome. But, that's the perception of a lot of the students. They're like, I don't need this cane. I'm just going to tell my dog, take me to Walmart, And I'm sure that there are some dogs that have been to Walmart enough times that you could probably say that. But that all happens with training. It's step-by-step training with that dog to get you that particular route. So even though technology in BlindSquare is awesome, I can talk to Siri, though. I can say, take me to Walmart. And she'll say, well, you want directions? I can give you directions. You'll be like, great, I'll take your directions. But she's not going to take me there. So, using your location while you're walking, my students end up shaking it all the time. Just because I need to have that I need that positive reinforcement that I'm going the wrong way or the right way, and I'm not off course. So even as we're walking down the street, they're like, I know that I'm supposed to walk 3 blocks to Cherry Street. I'm like, all right. And they might shake their phone 4 times before they even get 3 blocks just to make sure they're going the right way. Am I still heading north? And that works out really well. Another one of the things that I often encounter is that when you're traveling and you're teaching street crossing, one of the things that, has a tendency to happen is that once you cross the street, they believe that they're on a different street, that they're not on the same one. So even though you're traveling down your parallel traffic and you cross that street, once they've crossed the street, they get lost. And they're like, oh, I'm not on Cherry Street anymore. I'm on Orange Street. No, we crossed Orange Street. You're still on Cherry. Well, I don't believe you. Well, shake your phone, and then it'll confirm. So they get to do a lot of that self-checking. So I think that the location feature works out really well. You can shake your phone, and I've demonstrated it there for you there. Ideas for using it. If you're lost, you can't figure out where you're going, spatially updating to hear the current street address that you're at, to hear the heading to confirm you're heading the right direction. You can do that. Another one is the look around feature, and I'm going to turn this one on here.
Voiceover on. BS Beta. Search. Button. Tools. Button. Foursquare. Other. Filter it. Mute speak. Look around. Button. Search.
Now, this look around feature.
Professional and other places. Office.
And you can watch. If I stand here and face north.
Northwest. Dulles Access Road and Sully Road. 0.25 miles. Dulles Greenway and Sully Road. 0.36 miles. Travel and transport. Hotel.
So
Hyatt Dulles at Dulles International Airport.
now watch me turn my body the other way.
General travel. To the north. To the northeast. Innovation Avenue and Rock Hill Road. 0.26 miles. Arts and entertainment. General entertainment. Mensa Min James. Nightlife spot. To the south. To the east. To the southeast. Sunrise Valley Drive and Dulles Corner Drive. 650 feet.
I'm just going to stop that for a second just to kind of go over it.
Tools. Voiceover off.
Now look around. So based on how you are positioning your phone, and that's what I tell my students, I say, hey, if you wanted, they're like, I wanted to go to the McDonald's. And you're like, great, where's McDonald's? And they're like, well, they said it was northeast and stuff like that. They will turn on their phone and put on the look around feature and just start to angle. Oh, it says McDonald's is that way. Oh, good. And so they'll actually turn their body to figure out what's over on the north, or on the west, what's north, what's south, what are these businesses, how do I get there? And so you can go ahead and preview your environment that way, which works out really well in terms of utilizing the look around feature. So you can hear information about your businesses, upcoming street addresses. And basically it's based on your position of how you're facing. The other one is the Around Me feature, which will announce to you, oops, let me get back into my screen here.
Voice BS beta. Search. Search places within search. Tools. Button.
And it does something similar,
Around me. Button.
but it's not based on your position.
Search. Button. Tools. Button. Look around. Around me. Button. Search. Button.
So now it's going to search for things around me.
My places. Search. Around Travel me. Transport. Search. Common Northrop Grumman. GOI. Hyatt Dulles Travel Transport National Search. Airport. Sheraton Herndon Dulles Airport Hotel. Spices and Beyond. 2,325 Dulles Corner Deli.
So utilizing the Around Me feature will also give you information about things that are around you. And you don't have to turn your body, so you can hear those things. The other one that I like here is called the
Dulles Corner Drive. Voiceover about 0 feet at 9 o'clock.
Nearby Intersections, because that's the one that gets me the best.
Search places within.
So in Nearby Intersections, I simply went in and I hit Nearby Intersections. Now you can listen to all the intersections that are near you.
BS Beta. Nearby intersections. Back. Button. Dulles Corner Boulevard and Dulles Corner Drive. 405 feet at 9. Dulles Corner Boulevard and Dulles Corner Drive. 400 feet at 10 o'clock.
That one's at 10 o'clock.
Dulles Greenway and Dulles Access Road. Dulles Greenway and Dulles Access Road. About 610 feet. Sunrise Valley Drive and Dulles Corner Drive. Sunrise Valley Drive and Dulles Corner Drive. Sunrise Valley Drive and Dulles Corner Drive. 700 feet at 9 o'clock. Voiceover off.
So BlindSquare will definitely go ahead and give you some information in an auditory way that you may have been used to using your vision for. And you're going, I can't see those things anymore. What else could I do? You can certainly go ahead and utilize that. The last thing that BlindSquare actually does do, and we're kind of running out of time here for me to demonstrate this, but there's something called simulation mode. And what simulation mode does is that you don't have to be on the street. If you're planning a route, if I was planning to go to San Diego today, wouldn't that be nice? I love San Diego. I put in her address and I say, well, what's around her address? Where might I eat? What could I do? So by going ahead and having it in simulation mode, now BlindSquare believes you're there in San Diego. And it's only going to give you information about that location you put in. So if, I'm at Hard Rock Cafe, it's going to tell me everything around that Hard Rock Cafe within a 1.2 miles away. I could actually simulate a route with Google. So if I wanted to walk, from Lisa's house to McDonald's, I could certainly go ahead and plug that in, listen to it, and as I'm sitting on my couch, move my phone around and listen to things that I will pass to prepare myself for that trip. So that's what I always try to tell my students. I say, preview your environment first. If you're not going out and checking out what's in there, at least listen to what's around you, what's available for you to go to. Because as you're walking and you hear BlindSquare announce to you that, you've passed the CVS, you're going, oh, wait, I heard that before. That's a landmark. It's no longer a visual landmark, but it's an auditory landmark. And with that said, can I go into any questions, BlindSquare, any questions about orientation mobility services? I have a question over there. Yeah, she's coming. I wasn't quite sure she saw you.
With the BlindSquare, you have a compass, a GPS, a voiceover, and a few other programs running in the background there. How much power usage does that take up? I mean,
I'm not even going to pretend. Yes. You can get about 3 to 4 hours on your iPhone using VoiceOver and BlindSquare before it dies. I would use the Mophie case, which is that battery that goes, on top of it. I would definitely have a portable battery. But I did find that the nice thing, in order to reserve your battery, you can utilize BlindSquare. You don't have to in the background. So as you're traveling, you can actually drive BlindSquare through your headsets like aftershock. So by just hitting the button on the side of the headphone, it will announce to you your location. So you've got less screen, less battery use, all of that stuff. Make sure you turn off your screen, make everything black, save your battery.
Okay. Want to ask anything? I was told once by the person who gave me my cane, they kind of just did give me a cane, the person who taught me, that it had to go up to the nose instead, and I don't think I was really taught properly. They just took me to a place I actually knew and just told me to wave it around.
Yeah.
That was actually, that's how I was taught.
So you choose that.
Yeah, I choose. No. And also you brought about the Americans with Disabilities Act. There's at least one presidential candidate who has actually wants to repeal it, so just actually keep informed is all I'm going to say.
Really? Oh, I didn't hear that one. But in terms of your cane, like I said, the cane, really is based on how tall you are. It doesn't necessarily have to come up to your nose. I prefer my students to have it up to their chin, but it all depends. If they've got low tone or, it's really designed for the user. Is there anyone else with some questions?
So I have a question. In the look around feature, for example, if you're in that application, can you just shake it if it's somewhere you want to go, point and shake and move, or do you have to go back in to your location and then walk?
Oh.
Do you know what I mean?
Well, the look around would be like preview. So if you heard something that you wanted, right? Say, I always use, say you heard McDonald's, because that comes off the top of my head, and you're like, oh great, I want to go to that McDonald's. Well, then on the main screen of the page, right, you just hit restaurants and McDonald's will be listed, and you just click it and it'll take you right there.
So it's not a lot of looking and clicking and moving back into pages and all that?
No, there's not a lot of backtracking or backlinking. Everything kind of runs in the background, with it. Now, you may have some confusion in terms of that BlindSquare doesn't do turn-by-turn directions. We have...
Only 24% of battery left.
Oh, that's nice. But she's reminding me. But yeah, when Google will give you auditory directions, and so will BlindSquare. All right, and so sometimes they fight. When I'm traveling and I'm only listening to, say, BlindSquare, or I'm listening to Google Maps give me the turn-by-turn directions, I change my filter settings to only hear my points of interest or nearby intersections, as opposed to hearing every business. So you can filter out what information you want to hear and don't want to hear. But it's not a lot of backtracking. But it does, once it opens up through, say, Google, it goes right back into BlindSquare, and you're driving everything through BlindSquare.
Thank you. Could you tell us where BlindSquare is getting all this data from and how up to date it is, how accurate it is?
Yes, I can. Actually, BlindSquare uses the databases from, say, Foursquare, as well as Google. And so their information is as accurate as Foursquare and Google, and it changes every single day in their database. So if anyone's not sure what the Foursquare application is, it's a check-in. People share information about places that they've been. You can check into Foursquare through BlindSquare. You could also order an Uber taxi through BlindSquare, because they've paired that in as well. But yeah, they have really big databases. They're using Foursquare as well as Apple Maps, as well as Google Maps, where they're getting the information from.
Have you heard of Tap-Tap-See?
I have heard of Tap-Tap-See. I like Tap-Tap-See and VizWiz. I've tried Be My Eyes, but I haven't had much success with that. Now, in terms of VizWiz, I thought that was a little better because I was able to ask it a question. So we used VizWiz in terms of, you ever go to those vending machines to go get a Coke, and you're like, oh, look, they put the number pad in Braille. That's awesome. Can't see what's behind that glass, to know what I'm supposed to pick. I mean, it's like putting Braille on a drive-up ATM, and you're like, oh, that makes so much sense, And so you're like, okay, well, at least you're complying with the law. But, what we were able to do is, we'll go ahead, my students, and I'll say, you wanted that Coke? And they're like, yeah. So we'll take a picture of it, using VizWiz, and then we'll say, what number is Coke? And we'll send it in, and they give us back the answer. Or something that might be even faster is if you've got Facebook contacts or Skype contacts, or, you could call someone and say, oh, I'm trying to get this Coke. Can you just tell me what number it is really quick? And take a picture of it and send it to them, and they'll let you know. Any other questions in terms of that? I know that on my webpage, I've gone through about 330 apps for the blind and visually impaired. And the name of my website is actually called andreashead.wikispaces.com. And it is up on the PowerPoint, which I think that she'll be sharing. But on my website, I've got 300 apps that I've tested. And I actually put them in categories so you can pick. So if you're looking for a magnifier, or if you are looking for a GPS application, if you're looking for something that you can take a picture of your mail and have it read to you, it's up there. Prismo is the best OCR app I've come across. I know that they've got the NFB reader, but it's good. But you want to pay $99.99, or do you want to pay $9.99 for something? Anyone else have any questions?
All set. Thank you so much,
Great, thank you.
Andrea.